What is this deity that unites all Masons, that governs this brotherhood of men, that allows them to remain united while keeping the masses divided and conquered? Deity associated with Freemasonry has been known as the great architect of the universe. Now, what you're looking at on the top left is the Queen of Heaven, and the dove will be equivalent of the North Pole in Egyptian cosmology, Mayan cosmology, ancient flat earth cosmology. That dove would be the all-seeing eye, Polaris, the star at the top of the Christmas tree. This is all simple cosmology. Now, you will notice that at the center of the Masonic cosmology there below, you have a G symbolizing God. But whose God? Which God? Now, before we get into that, you can see that there's a corona shooting from that G, just like it is from the dove, because this cosmology we're dealing with right now parallels the cosmology associated with the ancient world. It's the oldest, most accurate cosmology. And the checkered and square plane you see in the Masonic cosmos is equivalent to Geb in Egyptian cosmology, symbolizing the unknown ends of the earth plane. You see, there's no recorded ends to the earth, and there's no edge that you can fall off of. When you understand the concept of the earth, you realize, like Nikola Tesla said, it's just a realm. The arch and the plane is Nut and Geb. There's so much in place to hide the true nature of where we are, but the magical aspect of Earth is being hidden behind these secret societies. They're only thieves. What everyone once knew in the ancient world was taken away at a certain point, and now it's resurfacing under what we call the flat Earth awakening. Everyone in power that you've ever known on every continent was associated with Freemasonry some kind of way. Freemasonry itself is a religion. The religion of Freemasonry goes above your personal religion. One thing about Freemasonry most people don't know is that Freemasonry does require you to have a belief in a God, but it also requires for you not to put that belief, personal belief, above your oath to your Masonic brotherhood. So all of these different deities and diversity amongst the different Masons are welcome and needed, but they all can discuss them just like governments sit down at table and sip tea, but the soldiers go to war and blow each other to smithereens. So when the United States is sitting at a table with so-called North Korea, understand that it's all a matrix created from the top down. And just like football games, basketball games are all rigged, they know who's going to win every year. Such as war, people dying. They know how many soldiers they want dead. These countries agree on this based on population control. The wars are created. All of the governments of the world work together. So no matter what continent you're on, they're going to give you that G word, that God. But it's going to be a synthetic form to disconnect you from reality and put you in that matrix of control based on the cosmology that they are hiding. On a massive scale, humanity is divided by deities, religions, traditions, what we call cultures. And what we see is that where we're divided on every aspect with these differences, the secret society of Masons embrace these differences and use them as camaraderie to build a brotherhood. And they have something that connects them all that is greater than any of their personal beliefs or even their cultures, because to be a Mason is to be in a unique culture yourself. So when you say secret society, understand that Masons are a secret society, and a society is a whole entire different culture with its set of values, its own religion, and its own deity that bonds that society and excludes anyone else from outside that society. So when we deal with the secret society of Masons, we must realize that this society have been around for thousands of years, brothers and sisters, just like any other society like Rome or Greece. But the thing about this society is it's a very small and efficient society, and wherever it finds itself seeding chaos and division and dominating that area as a small fashion that you can't necessarily touch, that give you puppets on the surface. The only two things that can exist in Midgard or Earth Heart, based on us being in a duat, is balance and non-balance. Non-balance is equivalent to chaos, and balance would be equivalent to the golden age, or what became the Garden of Eden before they bit from the tree of life. Now understand that that whole garden story was to take away balance. That's why the tree of life, which is nothing but the balance and scales, was desecrated in the garden. And Ma'at was placed with an evil talking serpent, which became the devil, but was always the diva in the old world and still is in the Eastern world today. All right. The trident is the balancing scales of the diva, the mother goddess. Mother Nature was personified in the ancient world, but was desecrated in the Western world as the devil. So the one who subconsciously you were in fear of, and they gave a tail and the horns and the trident, these things were revered in the ancient world as symbols of balance. So the deity you ended up worshiping is the very reason you out of balance. The gods we serve today don't serve us. They serve the ones who indoctrinated us with those gods. So when we pray, we're being preyed upon. Balance was cursed to create this matrix we in today. And when they told you civilization began, that's when civilization ended. We went from a guarding type, vegan type human to a hunting human that's on a meat-based diet and a diet that goes against nature. We had a symbiotic relationship with the plants, and any medical expert will tell you that the human body wasn't created to digest meat. By us being at the top of nature's food chain, once we began to hunt, we threw everything out of balance. Now everything preys and predates each other. But we can restore the pyramid and take this thing back to the golden age. We can literally do that, and it won't take long. So the goddesses had rules against hunting, but as desecration, some of the early European goddesses, they gave the archbow to and put those goddesses over hunting to say that it's now okay to hunt the animals. The creator they give us, this dumb, clumsy, heliocentric creator that creates this cosmos and allows dominion over things that it created in this capitalistic type structure. This is the God of their creation. They was able to achieve this world based on changing the dialectic and the chemistry of the earth. And a lot of that got to do with, it goes real deep, the biology of the earth and how every continent depends on its yearly flood. The cosmological connection we had to the earth became the Noah's flood and all of these mythological flood stories based on us being in cities today. We don't depend on the yearly floods of our continents. Every continent have an umbilical cord that's being fed the water systems. For example, United States would be the Mississippi River, Africa, the Nile River, South America, the Amazon. All of these major rivers run through these continents. Now, these major rivers feed all of these continents, and it's by design. Okay, but what happened over time with the creations of cities, we've been disconnected with the earth. We build against nature. Also, the fact that us not depending on those yearly floods, especially. Now, some countries do, like India and a couple of more, but they trying to go and westernize those now and dam everything up. This is why the U.S. don't depend on a yearly flood anymore. Every continent had a flood story, but these things became myth. This is microcosm, macrocosm. That was a flood story in the creation of the cosmos. There's a flood every year, that flood every continent for fertility. And every continent participate in these rituals, but American participate in these rituals in different ways during those times. Our customs and traditions hide these truths, as well as the rest of the world too. But when you look at theirs, you can see the ancient remnant as bright as day. You still can see that these people still relying on this flood for their entire economy. For example, India and the Amazon, and many more, even the Nile. Okay, this is what makes the land fertile, and this is a lot of breeding during these times too, because when we're doing good, we reproduce. So this is all linked to the goddess and fertility and the flooding in the creation story on a macrocosm, which happens every year on every continent on a microcosm. All of this connects us to the cosmological aspect which been hidden in mythology. Just because the goddess was cursed in the Garden of Eden, Eve is even, balance. He held the key to the balance. Now we are ruled under by male patriarchs, brotherhoods like Freemasons who hide the balance. But in secret, they worship the goddess, just like the Pope worshiped the Madonna. You have no balance because you only have the male masculine aspect. And when you have a bunch of men worshiping the man God, the balance is gone. You come from your mother's womb. She was your first teacher. Women make up the most number of teachers today, and that's why we give them apples to desecrate them, remind them how dumb they was in this mythological garden. Understand what I'm telling you here today. The women was written out of cosmology because they are the black hole that it all come from on the macrocosm. We still come from those black holes on the microcosm. Everybody come from the womb of a woman. So we got to understand how deep this is and how significant it was for them to take the woman role from the cosmology. Women are desecrated the most today, not only in mythology, but in society. They want to link all of this and label it feminism. But there's two different things going on. You must understand it's a spiritual war against the divine feminine and Mother Earth. The feminine role is being hijacked by feminine males, and the whole transcendent thing is linked to the transhuman thing. Now, I'm not judging anybody for their sexuality because everyone that's inflicted with this is not their fault. It's a fact that these things were seeded in our society by the elite. Now, when you look at this Masonic art on the bottom left and you see the G, that's representative of the G spot of the macrocosm, the divine womb. And that's the North Pole energy. If you think of how a pineapple stalk splits the entire fruit from the center, from the top down, and the fruit emanates from that stalk all around it, making a 360, all the way out to the fleshy skin on the outside of it. But it's all being supported by the center stalk and being fed with nutrients from the stalk. That's what we think about at the center of a tent, where that whole arc structure is being supported by that one pole in the middle. And the whole tent is being casted, in other words, emanates itself from that center pole, just like everything being fed from that invisible North Pole, magnetic pole, the sun and moon. Whatever this invisible force is, it stands at the North Pole and balances the scales, sun and moon, continuing them on an infinite circuit. And this is Ma'at. She's personified by a tree, because a tree is a trinity. When you talk about roots, trunk, branches, just like a family, all right, mama, father, children, all right, would be the branches, the expansion. So microcosm, macrocosm, as above, so below. This is what Masons are hiding. See, everything we do in life is ritual, linking us to macrocosm. All of this is the Holy Trinity, the tree of life, which is the trio of life, the string theory. You are your own cosmos that's already in the womb of your mother. The sperm is the activator. Sperm is the spark, the electricity which travels linear, and that activates the consciousness. Let's talk about the great architect of the universe, because this goes back into how these controllers are able to keep us divided while they stay united. Now, the things they get us to emotionalize, over emotionalized about, and get us into going to war over are the things that they just joke about. They don't take them serious. Masons, when they meet up, they all have different religions and different forms of backgrounds of belief systems. But when they become Masons and learn the secret, they're taught to keep those belief systems to fit into society and keep the dialectic and the matrix going. In fact, they're taught to strengthen it. This is what a Mason is, part of their duty today. So they meet up in these congregations and they have intellectual debates that actually strengthen their camaraderie. They don't take the beliefs as serious as the soldiers that's kill each other, who they train to be indoctrinated. They understand the esoteric meanings behind them and the syncretism, and they're already united. So there's a race for like-minded people to gather in masses and gain control over the masses, because that's the steering wheel. It only takes a few good men that's working together with one mission to control the entire earth. So they would need a deity to bring forth that unity. They would need something they all can agree on sustains us all, meaning the earth. So we have our own society apart from society based upon they're the sheeple. So when you hear we the people, that don't include you the sheeple who believe in the fake reality created by the real people who run this earth. They able to unite. And you got to think about something. No matter what religion a Mason belongs to, when they get buried in the ground, their funeral is a Masonic tradition, showing you that their Masonic religion overpowers their society or their pseudo religion. So a pseudo religion would be any form of the belief systems, major belief systems of the world. That's a pseudonym of the real creator. All of these different deities that divides humanity and keeps them from seeing the one source. And the name of that source should be a universal name, since the creation of the creator is universal, which leads to the great architect of the universe, which is the name of the creator that unites all Masons. And when you think about it, the word arch is what bonds it together. If you look at this term, the great architect of the universe, we don't have to get into the name universe because we're very familiar with that, dealing with this architect is universal. Whatever it built is sustaining everything in this universal plane called Earth. And no matter where you are, you can't escape this great architect who created this one verse or this one checkered board that you see at the bottom of that Masonic cosmology. Now, the reason it's made the way it's made, checkered, dealing with longitude, latitude, which can only be possible on a grid, a plane, not a spherical globe, because you wouldn't be dealing with square mileage and square inches on a spherical globe. X marks the spot, the divine intersection. All right, when we talk about the Dogon womb of all worlds, the target symbol, microcosm, macrocosm, binary code, duality, cross streets. So this is the language of the duat, which gives birth to the Trinity. Being when the man meet the woman, okay, the tree, which is the branches, the child, the expansion, the extended part of the cross that creates the intersection. Even though the son has been cut from the mother's umbilical cord, he's not disconnected from the mother because he's still now connected to the invisible umbilical cord of Mother Nature and connected to the earth for survival. And that can be In a macrocosm way view, that's the North Pole as well, which feeds this cosmic egg. Think about that binary code, the arch and the plane, the bow and the arrow. The arrow is able to take flight based on its receiving its energy from the center, based on an apparatus being made like the cosmos, the arch and the plane, the bow and the arrow. It can reenact this microcosmic energy and actually pull energy from the cosmos based on the apparatus that's built like as above, so below. The bow and arrow will able to be a very useful weapon all the way throughout history. So you can see how this divine science of as above, so below, how the creator, the grand architect, which created the first ark, the great mother, being how she showed us how to create energy out of this darkness based upon this duat. And we make batteries this way, negative, positive, a bow and arrow this way, based upon that negative, positive, the stiffness of the stick and the wiggly of the arch, which is bends the feminine. And when they come together and you pull at the center on that woman, when that man is, going, penetrating that woman, just like that arrow is stretching back that feminine part up, and she is absorbing that masculine line. The arrow is the penis, and that Venus or that vagina absorbs that penis to bring new life, just like that arch, that rubbery, the wiggly, the soft part of the weapon being the bow, because it bows, it bends like nut. She's bent. She's the one that's flexible with the curves, She represents the original wave that spoke it all in existence, the sine wave. And because it's able to bend and be flexible, like Bruce Lee say, like water, be like water, from the center you can pull energy from her, and a new life can be pulled from that vortex, from the center of her, where all life comes, just like the center of the earth. Like that arrow is able to take flight because it's being pulled, because she's absorbing, all right? She's able to bend, she's absorbing that masculine energy, and when you let go of it, boom, he's able to fly. So the moon goddesses carry the archbow because the arrow is the sun. The sunlight shines linear, and the moonlight is a lesser light that shines abstract. It don't shine in a linear pattern. This is why the sun wear the crown or the corona. The king wear the crown, and the queen wear the gown. The moon has the tail. The bride drags the tail, and she has the veil because she's the lesser light. And the husband, his head is exposed because the sun wears the crown, and it's the greater light, but it has no companions with it. So the moon has all of the stars. She give us the mystery. We're able to tell time by her children, the stars. She was always the teacher. The moon arc. This is why the moon goddesses carried the bow and arrow, because the night sky reside behind the sunlight. In other words, the darkness look down upon the sun and watches it shine, like a mother watching her son grow up. And this is why the number 13 is feared, because the 13th disciple is the queen of heaven, like you see in the top left corner here. Now, this deity predates Jesus. Again, all patriarchal religions had a goddess that predated the gods that create all of these wars today, because patriarchal gods create out of chaos and rule out of chaos. They're war gods. Okay, they rule out of fear. That's why they create subconscious places like hell to scare you into submission. This is male energy. And when there's no balance, you have a world like today. You have an arrow without a bow, flying without a trajectory, and that's a dangerous arrow. Has no God or no God. And that God is really the goddess, the moon, which sits above the sun. And the phases of the moon is the goddess shooting the archbow, because when you pull back on the bow and you release it and that arrow flies, the whole positioning of the bow and arrow from the moment you pull it back and release reveals all the phases of the moon. This is microcosm, what happens in macrocosm. So even the way we create energy on a simple bow and arrow, which uses a stick and a doggone simple object just such as a rubber band, you can create energy based on bending that band. And the fact that it's able to bend is feminine energy. All right. When you dance, the woman is more, her waist can move more curvy than the man can. The man is more stiff and robotic. The woman, can't nobody dance like the woman. She's the sexy one. So she's the serpent. She's the one who does the hula dance in Hawaii and the belly dance in the Middle East. And this was the way the woman attracted us in the dance when we were in the old world. We still attract this way today in the nightclubs when they cut the dumb music on. But back in the old days, it was a more divine connection and a more unperverted music. The woman moving them hips and the lamps you see with the woman moving, she was tapping into that serpent energy that starts stimulating the base of the spine, and from the root chakra you start interacting with her, and from now you can go higher to the crown chakra, get to know that person. From the heart you form a bond at the heart chakra, meaning the center, and y'all encompass all time and space and become one, your own universe. Remember that the root word of tribe is tri, dealing with trinity, because a family is a trinity. That's why the synonym for tribe is family. The family is the tribe, but the tribe is the the trinity, the tree of life. So the woman has a key role in keeping that going based on the law of attraction, based on when you pull the bow and arrow, it creates the alphabet A for arch, because that alphabet is just a hieroglyph of the cosmos. It's the arch, plane, square, and compass, Nud and Geb. Anything dealing with the primordial source is uni or uno, like the unicorn. And you can't deal with this source without the V or the U, dealing with the Venus energy, which is the primordial energy, the vein or the canal, being the vagina, the vortex. All of these things are start with the V, because the vortex is the V, the viper's tongue. At the center where the tongue is split is where the V reveals itself. And that V is the triangle trinity angel, the vagina of the woman, the womb of all worlds, because our cosmos shapes this way. So it's the vortex, the Vulcan energy, volcano, things that shape like it often start with a V or a T. For example, a tornado, and the T, you know, is nothing but the V. Because when the T is the balancing scales, and when you outline that, you get the V, the vagina again. So the V, the T, the three is all a trinity dealing with this great architect, which is the great mother. So the Masons is unified based on their connection with the great mother. But the great mother is not a entity that's going to come and save the masses. We have to save ourselves by tapping into the energy of the great mother. It's not the bow and arrow that kill a person. It's the one who understands the science behind the bow and arrow and know how to create this apparatus that would tap into as above, so below, and give you the energy to make that arrow take flight to kill your opponent. The universe ain't going to stop that person from being killed because they didn't know how to build a bow and arrow. Knowledge is power. Remember that the sword and the shield is the masculine and the feminine, the darkness and the light. The vagina that absorbs the light, just like the night sky absorbs the light of the sun, which penetrates through the darkness, just like the male penetrates through the vagina, and she absorbs that light energy in the form of sperm or spark. There's a climax or a pinnacle, just like the tip of every pyramid, based upon this ritual. It's all a pyramid ritual. So at the climax, there's an orgasm, and something happens based upon this duet, in and out motion, this dance. All right, something is birthed from that, and it's a spark or light that was birthed just like at the creation story in the beginning of the cosmos, but it happened in darkness, just like the sperm is being let loose inside of the darkness of the womb. When this sex ritual is taking place, the sperm, which is the light or the spark, finds itself in darkness racing to the egg of the woman. This is the arrow that's being absorbed by the bow. Because this spark is attracted to that arch, just like when it manifests in the womb, still attracted to the arches of the breast to sustain itself. It seeks refuge in her, just like that sperm seeks refuge in the egg. It's just a spark that lets the consciousness know it's time to bring forth life. This is the Cupid concept. Remember that the archbow is the number 13 and the queen of heaven is the 13th disciple or the 13th floor. All of these movies about the 13 being dealing with the hidden stuff, you know, the 13th floor and all of that, because nobody go to that floor. It's a mystery what happens there. 13 is surrounded with mystery because that's the darkness. Remember, the question is the mystery and the light is the quest. So the spark is the one that's asking the question, and the egg already knows it, but he seeks refuge in her. It's a dance, a duet that creates a trinity or a continuum or a race, all right? And this dragon eating its tail concept. The archbow is the number 13. When you add it up, you get 4 for foundation. That means for founder, for fountain, because the one who laid the foundations means the outline being nut. She deals with the sacred geometry. Think about it. Sacred geometry is simply outlining symbols. For example, if you outline the cross, you get the symbol that predated it, which is the crest. That's the shield. So when I say the shield and sword is the masculine and feminine, it's the sword that penetrates the shield to save your life. That shield is there to absorb that linear sword, which is the penetrator, the light. All right, the destroyer energy, the male energy, the masculine. The sunlight travels linear, not like the moonlight, which travels abstract. She represents the subconscious, which already knows the questions that the masculine asked, that sends that spark or that sperm on that linear quest down a canal to find its way to the egg and to come to this earth and ask these questions. The quest seems linear from your perspective, but it's really spiral. It's a spiritual quest, a continuum inside of yourself happening and outside of yourself, and you connected to it all. The 13 is for the founder, F-O-U, the fountain that exists within you and within the middle of the earth, because the center is synonymous with us traveling to the center, and also it's synonymous with upward. It's synonymous with the core. The average person in the matrix believe in Satan and scared of the darkness. This is why they don't meditate. But when they pray, they're being preyed upon, because they're babbling a language of ego to a creator that already knows all. When they're entering that dark spot, the dialogue that all of the mundane stuff they pray about is the dialogue of the ego, that them thinking Jesus blessed them with a Cadillac, but they really was being preyed upon because the riches that dictate their value system in this mundane religion of prosperity and the likes is the things that create the prison for that person. They live their whole life bound to the symbols on the cars instead of the symbols in nature. They learn their reality from the books of man, which binds them by the printing, by the pressing of the text, and the binder, which is the book, the bond. And they form a bond with the book and break the covenant with nature. So the arch is the covenant. We're reminded by this arch when we look at the rainbow. It's feminine. All of the colors of the rainbow come together. They create darkness, just like crayons in the coloring box. Darkness is synonymous with all of the colors. The night sky is a less dense realm that is projecting the child, which is the sun, which is in a sense projecting us here based on our connection to the sun and the moon and the light luminaries above. And the plasma, when you look up, the source of all is looking back down, just like a baby looking up at the mother coming out of the womb and the mother looking back down at the baby. And the baby asks the questions that the human asks when the human look up at the night sky. The body knows to go through the maturity and the phases, just like the moon is teaching us with its phases. So the moon holds the mystery of reality, the phases and the transitional elements, as above, so below, of us going from the heavenly realms back here to the heart, which is earth, where we should govern ourselves from the heart chakra and remain centered, just like the G at the center of the Masonic cosmos, which is the G spot. It's a fractal reality that's being hidden to create chaos. So you only get the masculine or the arrow, and nothing to absorb that to slow this dangerous trajectory down. I mean, this is an arrow that's just flying recklessly without a bow, what we have today, and that's a scale tilted to one side. But what we have when we see Ma'at is everyone on earth on board with the teachings of the great mother or the great architect. And that will unite us just like it has done the secret brotherhood of Masons. Understand that it's nature that connects us all. I don't care what your walk of life is, how selfish your emotions tied up in your history. Ain't no such thing as race. The original race was the different conceptions and interpretations of this reality clashing, and different men setting out to form like-minded societies, and power would be in numbers. This when men started to dominate based on ideology. This when knowledge started to be monopolized. Understand that knowledge is essentially the real currency even today, because you get your money based on what you know. If you knew what the owner know, you will make more money. It's all about the gnosis. So understand the value of knowledge, and you will see why secret societies are wealthy, because they're wealthy in knowledge. Knowledge that's been hidden from you. Knowledge of the above. Knowledge of the macrocosm that they monopolize to control the microcosm. So by these astronauts, which are all Freemasons, which call themselves traveling men, again, because they travel the depths of the human mind, knowing all of the questions you're going to ask about this reality, and they formulate the synthetic answers to keep you from asking any more questions, to scare you from asking questions, and by keeping you in a box, you stop your quest. Now, my art symbolize balance, and the scales are balanced, and at the center is the feather on her head, showing you that the third eye is what balances these scales, left eye, right eye, what you looking at outside. You should reason close your eyes and come to a reasonable conclusion on what you're seeing. But when somebody giving you an irrational conclusion, remember, rational dealing with Ra, dealing with a radius, which is a perfect splitting of a circle diameter. Again, a yin and a yang. If it's not split properly, it's not balanced right. It's that simple. So to hijack the third eye, which would have been the consciousness that was already in you, that would have let you know you was on a flat plane before they indoctrinated you with a globe. That's when they got in between your two eyes, and you go outside and your two eyes see a horizon, and it's called a horizon because it's horizontal, but you ignore that because you look in a book, and the book is the bond that you break the covenant with. You break the covenant that you got with the two eyes God gave you to look at that horizon, which is horizontal, and you look in the book, which was created by the elite, and you form a bond with the book and the text, and you have an agreement. The binder. The book is the binder. So the text is what makes you break the covenant with the Most High, because that rainbow you looking at every day show you that the sphere is above your head and not under your feet. So when they gave you the globe and balled up the ground beneath you, they reversed the roles of masculine, feminine. Now they got Gail bent over. When the man is the masculine. We stand straight and stiff. The woman got the waist that's switching and she curvy. But when you got Gail, which is laid out representing the masculine, now you got Gail balled up in a ball. You creating this homosexual Baphomet energy, this ball god, this patriarchal version. True balance is ball lance or lance ball, the bow and arrow. She's the real balance. Now, when you reverse the roles and give Gail the scales, it's going to lean to one side because man is not the maker of the law. Man is the enforcer of the law. Just like the sun is the sustainer, the messenger. The light from the sun lets everything know what time it is. He's sending a message. He go and blow the bullhorn. But the sound is the message itself, is the what spoke it all into existence from the darkness in the first place. The curve, the sound wave. He's just a messenger of that. Again, the arrow is what travels and send a message that I don't like you, boom, and it pierces the heart and penetrate and you die. But the hidden energy behind it was the energy that came from the center, from that one that absorbed that arrow. She is why Gab is able to shine. The night sky is why the sun able to shine. It's on a circuit above your head. And all that exists is nighttime. And whenever the sun makes his way to you, it's daytime. And somehow it's always been balanced since the beginning. There's an intelligent source at the center of this earth, or this heart. Earth is heart. And you can see that representative of the G in the Masonic cosmos. Now, they got you thinking about Big Bangism, that some exploded out of nothingness and created this intelligent reality you see. And that we was 8 people and now we humans with iPhones. None of it makes sense. There was an intelligence that was always dictating this reality and still is. The reason you can't see it because you're in a dream world that you believe in, as opposed to the world you can know. Gnosticism is the gnosis. And this is what we're dealing with when we're talking about knowledge. The K is really the G. You can spell knowledge with a G as well. So knowledge or gnosis is all the same to dealing with knowing and not believing. This is what Masons deal with, and they able to rule over you by getting you caught up in the beliefs they created for you. So the beliefs come your world, and you ain't dealing with reality. You dealing with belief, not facts. Remember that the belief is not the end result. What divides us unites them. They're knowing that all of this stuff is just belief systems created to keep you divided. The knowers, the controllers, the programmers, dominators, those who dominate the knowledge of the dome above your head, who are dictating the knowledge of the stars to you, also dominate your actual pineal gland, the seat of your soul, because you're connected with the stars based upon your personal interpretation of nature. If you let someone else interpret it for you, they are sitting in your throne. The third eye is the interpreter of what the left eye and right eye sees. So if you walk outside and see a flat plain horizon, but look in a book and believe in a globe which has never been proven, someone is giving you a synthetic reality, and based upon a large amount of people believing in it, it becomes a real reality in their mind. And systems are birthed from that belief. And more belief systems are born on top of it to perpetuate the chaos. The ones who seeded this dissension are united because they know where the lie was birthed from. All lies were birthed from the truth. And the truth is that, yes, in Genesis there was darkness, and yes, light came on, but the lie is that it was a big bang which hides any type of intelligent creator. You knowing that the creator is intelligent will start to create a more intelligent human on earth, as opposed to what's called a zombie or a sheeple, which is the norm today. Non-intelligent based upon your indoctrination. The intelligent ones actually rule you based upon the gnosis and you having the belief. Mother Nature connects us all even before our personal beliefs, which we can't prove. What we can prove is all of us standing on the earth, all right, on the heart. All of us need the water from her to sustain us. So why would we go to war, perpetuate division of things we can't prove, gods we can't prove that was given to us by controllers? So they're able to hide things right in front of your face because you're not trying to prove them. You're too busy arguing the things you indoctrinated with, which is so far from the truth. Masonic cosmology, the Queen of Heaven concept to the left here. The great architect is the one who created the ark. And in Kemetic cosmology, that's Nut, or when you look up outside, night. The primordial sea, the darkness that we go to every night, the creative sea where all things come from. Indoctrinated people are not inventors. They are consumers who are controlled by inventors who are able to go to that darkness and invent new things that control and shape your reality. You become victims and slaves of those inventions because you don't know how to create from within to control your world without. Since you can't go within, you're being ruled by people who master this reality, and they're multimillionaires in the arts and creations and inventions based upon them understanding their connection to reality, tapping into the creator within and not forfeiting that creative energy to some deity that man gave them. They created the deity that you give that energy to. And all of these world deities around the world are the light rays you see being emitted from around the G. So most Masons know that the real religion is Freemasonry, which is a belief in a great architect, just like all of the ancients had a belief in the creator of the Ark Dome, which became the all-seeing eye. They cursed this stuff to keep you away from it. So understand that the reptilian eye is the slit or the yoni, the divine feminine, because she's the Nagini, the one with the serpent tail who keeps the balance. Remember, the serpent is the sine wave. I really hope y'all tie together everything I'm saying and how it relates to microcosm and macrocosm, male and female, and how the roles were reversed by these Masonic evil men who reversed them by the laws of as above, so below. First with the cosmology, taking the goddesses' roles and giving it to the gods. This happened thousands of years ago, and we still being ruled under this dialectic. The G is the G-spot, the divine feminine. The great architect is a blended deity, just like the rainbow is a blending of all those colors exposing the darkness, just like an eclipse is a marriage of those two celestial bodies exposing the darkness. The source behind the sun and moon, the source that eclipses them both, which is the darkness. Man and woman both have a shadow. That's the darkness, the visual representation of the subconscious, because the light reveals the shadow. The outline deals with sacred geometry, like I explained previously, that the symbol, for example, when you outline, you practice the Nut concept, because she is the outline of the cosmos, or the arch. The arch is the outline. So because of that, when you outline anything, you reveal the dimensions of that thing. Just like when light shines on you, the shadow is casted. That outline is a revelation. Nut is also a concept of sacred geometry, where if you take the cross, for example, and you outline it, you're practicing the law of as above, so below, because with sacred geometry, when you outline things, you're casting the shadow. You're casting the shadow of that thing, of that symbol. So when you take the cross and outline it, you get the yoni, because what predates Jesus is this queen of heaven that you see in the top left corner. She is the 13th disciple, not Jesus. All right. She's the 13th disciple. 13 is 4. Remember, Nut is the arch. In Egyptian cosmology, she has 2 arms touching the ground and 2 legs touching the ground, symbolizing those 4 points, or the base of a pyramid, the foundation, the foundation. Because there's a foundation, there's a fountain or a zenith, and that's the peak. Architect, dealing with the way we build buildings, because the foundation of all buildings and houses is like the cosmos. Everything starts on a foundation, and if that's not right, it can't stand right. So again, if your third eye, which is the founder, all right, the seat of the soul, the Nut, the one with the 4 points touching the ground, enclosing Gale, protecting him, if that ain't protected, then you won't perceive reality right. It's not what you see, it's how you interpret what you see in the darkness, or the third eye. It interprets, it takes the visual message of the eyes and turns it into a symbolic form and interprets it in the brain as information. So if someone have hijacked the throne, which is your third eye, and put themselves in the place of the creation being NASA, and reinterpreting it to you, then they are wearing your crown. You're a slave. You're indoctrinated. So the founders of any government society didn't put themselves in power by the people. They did it by deception. They're not the founders. Nature is the founder of it all and the sustainer of it all. Alpha and Omega, 0 and 1 binary code. Dealing with the great architect, the arc is the A, the alphabet A. It's the beginning and ending, or the nut and gab, the angle and the linear. When she shoots her arrow out of her archbow, she's casting her tent. She's projecting consciousness, splitting herself in a divine act of balance. So secret means secrete. Secret is synonymous with darkness because the knowledge I'm giving you has always been secret knowledge, even before secret societies. Man walked upon this earth and man asked questions when he looked up and below with the ground beneath him. And these questions led to answers and more quests. And the more quests and answers, you can look at questions and answers like an eternal dance that actually without this, there would be stagnation. The Creator is so perfect, the part of itself that it agreed to preserve for not knowing, it's interested in perfecting the unknowing. So it want to perfect actual, what we call ignorance itself, or the ability to not know. The Creator actually want to be the best at that. When we say ignorance is bliss, the Creator want to have the best form of bliss based upon the best form of ignorance. And to do that, it's on an eternal dance with itself of knowing and unknowing to create the most best form of knowing and the best form of unknowing. So when it's in any phase of this duat, it will perceive the best of the best based upon where you vibrate, where you need to be to suit the Creator of your own world, seeking the balance of yourself, which is the actual balance of the Supreme Creator. It's a continuum. So this Creator has to be perfect in not knowing so that it can achieve the most blissful state of ignorance when it comes to experience that which it's created. Again, this binary code, this link to the divine feminine who carries the archbow, which shapes like the D for dome. All of these alphabets are actual glyphs. Remember, 13 is 4. She is the 13th disciple, not Jesus. All right. So understand that 4 is the base of the pyramid. And that's very important because that's the foundation and the fountain, which is the Alpha and Omega, the 0 and the 1. But it starts with the darkness, which is the founder. The whole structure was created at the same time from the outside and the inside. So at the same time we was thinking of this creation in the human form, it was creating itself simultaneously by the Creator in the macrocosmic form, just like a question being asked and an answer coming at the same time that the question being asked. But none of it had a beginning, because the darkness always was, and that's the sea of potential. When you say potential, the root word of potential is potent. Potent, dealing with fertility. But when you say potent, remember that the word tent is in the word potent. And the root word of tent is 10, dealing with the triangle number 10, which is also the binary code. The X chromosome is the original trinity. X is darkness. So when you look up at the night sky, that's a visual representation of X. The unknown. But darkness is all of the colors of the rainbow, just like light. But they all emanate from the darkness, the rainbow and the light, just like the sun and moon is being eclipsed by the darkness. This darkness is the Trinitarian aspect of your reality. When the left brain marries the right brain properly, the third eye is stimulated and you are master of your own reality and assume the throne or the seat of your soul. But until you do that, someone else is steering you. Every move you make will serve those in power and not yourself, because you haven't tapped into the darkness within yourself to free yourself, because every human is an artist. This great architect is what unites all Masons. This is the great architect that united all of the early humans before we even had governments to govern the mental. Today, these presidents are presiders. President means preside. The root word of president is preside. The first presidents were the pharaohs that established the first civilizations of royal family ruling over the masses, creating peasant systems based on a few people hiding the knowledge and creating Gnostic schools or early systems of Freemasonry. Mason means Ma, son, a son of the Ma. We're all Masons or sons of Mama Nature. But you're not a real Mason if you're a sheep. You're a son of the Papa, which is a son of the Pope. So you're a Payson, living the illusion of your controllers. These presidents are presidents who are put in place by the hierarchy to preside over the sheeple. The pastor is the pasture to keep the sheep grazing. So as long as you stay grazing on this perpetual pasture of nonsense, then you never move. Every Sunday is another funeral instead of a celebration of life. We have a ritual of death, and the roles have been reversed to where we serve men, male gods on the subconscious, and we create worlds of war on the surface. Because where the divine feminine energy is missing, chaos prevails. And there are rulers who are able to rule out of that chaos and perpetuate that chaos by hiding your potential. Remember, potency, hiding who you are and giving you an identity that was fashioned for you. Everyone in these societies are mirror images of what they see on TV. They are programmed and they all regurgitate the doctrine of their programmers. But I'm telling you what's hidden so that you can access your potential and become more potent in this reality. All right? And you do that first by taking control of the spiritual aspect of your reality, learning how to think, because you don't think properly. This is why you're creating mayhem in your life. If you don't get the head of the dragon in order, the tail will fucking swing around and make a mess everywhere it go when you walk. Imagine a dragon swinging its tail, knocking stuff over, just clumsy. But when you learn balance, you become a proper Nagini, and you actually get that tail into balance and you learn how to fly. You become that flying dragon and not some dinosaur Barney. That's when the dragon fly and the words it speak burns, just like the darkness spoke the light into existence and shine through darkness. You can see the fruit of your words. Those words are seeds that will manifest great things. The original race to establish control upon the masses, when man developed the evil consciousness to do so, was to form power in numbers and to form a divine belief where serves the whole. In Mason's case, they still worship the original mother goddess, aka Mother Nature, simply earth. We forgot what connects us all, which is the earth, or the heart of the Most High, which is the creation of the Creator, which is the visual representation of the invisible Creator. The flowers, the animals, the air. You don't care about that. You will go to war about the gods that's invisible, that rule over you in fear in these little books that's written by men. You give power to the book and ignore the tree which sustains you. You walk past the waterfalls that's beautiful and throw your trash in them, but you get mad when somebody say a cuss word on a church ground. You go and drink polluted water, but get mad because somebody threw a bottle on the ground at the church. The people that control you convince you to look into books and ignore the very nature in front of you that's speaking to you and revealing itself to you, and the creator trying to talk to you through these animals and these plants and the wind and the stars. You let someone else interpret it for you, as if the creator didn't give you a mind that was good enough. So when you forfeit your right to think and you let someone else do it for you, which is called indoctrination, then you get off the steering wheel. You don't occupy the seat of the soul, which is the pineal, the interpreter of the visual reality. You let someone else do it. Therefore, they are in power because they are at the seat of our thrones. Power is in numbers. Many people believe in their lies and are forfeiting their powers to the deities that was created and given to them in these religions. But again, the Masons have a deity called a great architect, which is a blended deity which filters the energy of all of those energies they use to divide the world with, and then takes that energy and intercept it to empower themselves spiritually, physically, mentally, you name it. The controllers of the dome kingdom, all right, don't mean queendom. You're in kingdoms today. That don't include the queen aspect because they rule you by that hidden aspect. The queen bee is at the center of the hive, just like the cosmic mother was at the center of the ancient cosmos, just like this G you see in the Masonic cosmos, which is the queen of heaven at the top. She is the 13th disciple, because all of these 12 constellations revolve around that 13th point, which is Polaris. That's the fountain. That's where the tension coming from in the archbow. When you actually think of an archbow, it shapes like the number 13. The number 13 is a capital B. And it means bend. The 13 is the B for bend, or the B for breast. Remember that that bird is a V. It's making a V or a chevron, which is the vortex. That's the Trinity. Because it's 3 points. That's above the Queen of Heaven. Because it's the same thing, the sacred bird in a lot of ancient cosmologies. That's the source of all. And the root word of bird is BI, dealing with the binary code. Each wing is a polarity that creates this vortex, and flight is able to be achieved. Animals tap into the same science that we use when we create bow and arrows. Where this G is at the center of the cosmos, or the cosmic mother sits, is also where the cupids are with their archbows in a lot of cosmological art. For example, the lover's card. Because that 13 is the B, or the bend. Remember, the one that's able to bend holds the absorption energy, where all energy emanates from this black hole. Not even light can escape it. They tell you this even in heliocentrism. But they manipulate the knowledge. The B is the bend, the double arches, the breast, the law of attraction, dealing with the cupid, dealing with tension, because when you pull the arrow, dealing with the archbow, you create tension. And remember that the root word of tension is 10, dealing with the binary code. Because the whole damn archbow is just the 0 and the 1. All of this stuff is ritual acted out in our life. All of this stuff is a fractal reality that I'm tying together right now, braiding together your reality and making it holistic so that you see it with the third eye as opposed to the do eye. Ten is tension, dealing with tent, dealing with even how this cosmos is created, because the pole at the center of the tent is what supports the whole structure. Think of that pineapple again. Even the stalk is what allows this fruit to hang from the tree. When this fruit get a certain age and it ripens, now it falls from the tree just like the human falls from the earth, but when it falls, it goes into the ground and create many more trees. And this is the whole phase of the human going into the ground at the funeral. Funeral means funnel. All right. And we funnel through the great deep and find ourselves snowflakes again. Law of attraction precipitating is participating at this meeting or this plane called Earth, where we meet in the medium. 13 is the B for bend, the archbow. 13 is 4 for foundation, because that bending is the tension that sustains our very reality. That arrow would fly for infinity, and that symbolizes this string theory, because the arrow would be the needle at the tip of the string when a woman is knitting together some fabric. She would weave together that fabric. And it's called knitting because the night sky is the knit that weaves together all there is. This darkness is actually the glue to everything there is. So that G you see in the center represents that darkness within, which is also that darkness outside behind the luminaries. And again, it's the glue. So it's a spiral. It's a G. It's the G spot, or the glue. It's where the tension is when you look at a tent. If you look at that G, all of the tension in the tent would settle where you see this G at the center. All right, or the center. Sin is Zen. It's all 10. She is the pole that supports the tent, as you can see in the Queen of Heaven Christian art, the upper left. Again, that Trinity is the tree of life. That's the trunk of the tree, the gateway between the roots and the branches. It's the vortex that feeds it all, the divine womb, the feminine that we all come from. So it's the G spot. And when we look at the earth, is where all of this stuff settled. And it's the good spot, but came to be gravity to deceive you like some was holding you together, but it's really the magnetic pull of the mother. It's not gravity. Gravity is a gravity or grave, a free fall, a bottomless pit. This pull that we're talking about is the law of attraction. You're constantly attracted to her vortex. That's the pull. The fact that you can't live with her and you can't live without her, meaning that you can't live with her, meaning when you look out at the sky, you wonder about her because she's night or nut. All of us was born on our own time. None of our heartbeats is the same cadence, and our fingerprints aren't the same, but we're all tied to the same source. So we see this string theory acted out in all ways, tying together all things. The diversity is really the divinity. It's this singular aspect. Even if you say infinity is a bunch of numbers or a bunch of, that's a lot, it's a bunch of numbers. Remember, infinity is just one thing, but within infinity is all things. So all things create one thing. As above, so below. Can't live with her, can't live without her. As within, so without. This is a rhythm. This is a rhythm. So when you say sandwich it shows this rhythm of yin, serpent, yang, bread, meat, bread. The meat is the meeting. Or the earth plane, where it all happens, the stage, the ground, the grid, the gap. The earth is the heart. And if you got a good heart, you can beat any disease, all right? Understand that. But even the heart is receiving its signal from the third eye, which is the crown at the center of your dome, which is dictating all of the physiology, biology of your entire body, even the heart, which is just another mind. And the stomach would be a lower mind, the third mind when you're traveling down. And that's where we at today in a world that is governed by appetite, greed, the mind of hunger. So you have obesity, greed, capitalism, big fish eat small fish, as opposed to all fish benefiting the whole sea, and having community and having balance, where the strong is only the strong because the weak exists. What is strength that you never use? The weak give the strong purpose. The weak is the teacher. Just like the moon is the weaker light, but it's the most powerful one. Say the woman is the weaker vessel, but she dictates everything. She controls it all with that womb. The queen bee is the weaker bee, and it barely moves. All it does is it saves its energy to create life. The other bees do the work. But this is the relationship that we should have with nature. Remember, the queen bee is at the center, just like the North Pole energy of the cosmic mother. And we should have that same relationship. The beehive is the cosmos. The bee politics is the golden rule. The honey is the end result of what we get when we practice the golden rule, or sweet reality. So remember that the center is that stalk. And when that fruit is ripe, it's time to drop to the ground. This is the journey of the human. And for you to go at the center of your heart and get a grip on life, because to get a grip is what happens when you get stable and get founded. You get a grip, you get centered. That's what a grip is. That's why, like I told you, the arch dome represents the covenant, and it represents 10. And when the original form of contract is shaking hands, putting 5 plus 5 to create 10, that's a covenant. When you look at, for example, the Boys and Girls Club's logo, they showing you a yoni in the form of a covenant, which is Zen or 10 in the form of handshakes. So handshakes started with Freemasonry. That's why it was they use handshakes to speak and to keep certain secrets depending on how they shake the hand. The handshake should be strong. It should be very firm, because the firmament above our head, or the arch dome, is firm. And if you give me a weak handshake, that's a sign of distrust, or you ain't keeping the covenant. So that's why when you shake elders' hands, it feel like they breaking your bones, because the tighter the grip, the stronger the covenant. All right. And grip starts with G. Remember, the grip is where the tension resides in a handshake. When two people grip, the grip is the center where the tension is. And that's the G spot, the grip spot, where all of these concepts meet. Is the G spot, like you see in the Masonic cosmos, where yin meets yang, and there's a gripping, a handshake, sun and moon. And this tension, this firm handshake gripping, creates this firmament dome above us, and that's a covenant. And that's why we shake hands for covenants, as above, so below. And that's the vortex. When you write the capital B, is nothing but a bird. Remember that this holy dove at the top is the 3. If I tell a child to draw a bird on paper, they'll draw a 3 or a lowercase m in front of a cloud. Then you will say it's a bird. But when you look at this dove, that is that 3, that Trinity, or the V. That bird shapes like a V. And that's what the B is. The vortex, tapping into the archbow energy, the tension, the grip, how we able to achieve this energy and use it for all fashions of life. It's the hidden one that knows all of this. That's where the head is. And where the head goes, the tail follows. Think of the Ouroboros. So it's not the wings. It goes back to what I said. It's not the polarity. It's not the sun and moon. It's the invisible power that's creating their circuit in perfect balance. The sun and moon is the visual representation of that hidden intelligence that's also telling the dirt to make the trees and telling your heart to pump. There's an invisible intelligence. I wanted you to understand the great architect of the universe, what we see in Masonic cosmology, and how this is nothing but the great mother. And this is a physical thing that you can prove and detect with science, and also an invisible thing that you can't, because it's a duot. But because these two facts exist, we are here today discussing them, living the quest or the journey, the human experience on the earth heart plane. Again, those roles were reversed and Gab was balled up. So the key is to understand the balance, go back to our ancient origins, but we tapped into the symbol, and we need to ditch the dialogue and break the bond with the binder and the book, get back into the third eye sacred geometry, which is the outline or the gut energy, because this will reveal the truth. The shadow is a dark entity, but it reveals the dimensions of the person. If you saw the shadow of a snake, you don't need to see the snake to know what that is, okay? Because just as well as you can see with the lights on, you can see with them off. Just as well as you see with your eyes open, you see better with them closed when you interpret that reality properly in darkness. This firmament is firm, and this goes into law when you deal with a law firm that's a covenant. So Noah's Ark is fairy tales, but Nut's Ark is truth. So New Ark became Noah Ark, and is to hide the truth of the great mother and to hide that balance so that chaos can be perpetuated. The center is the key. It's not about tapping into the higher self or lower self, but tapping into the center self, tapping into the heart chakra. Humanity need to go back to compassion, because that's how we're supposed to live on the earth. The earth is the heart chakra of the Most High. Until we understand that, our reality will be chaos. Let's go ahead and read over this now that we have a concept of this great architect, which is nothing but Nut, this great ark, this divine mother. The great architect of the universe is a conception of God discussed by many Christian theologians and apologists. As a designation, it is used within Freemasonry to represent the deity neutrally. Remember, neutrally is neutron. The neutron is at the center, like the great mother. So listen to the language: to represent the deity neutrally, meaning the one creating the tension at the center of the tent, the one balancing the scales being Ma'at. So this is to represent the deity neutrally in whatever form and by whatever form name each member may individually believe in. So the Masons have a handshake, a covenant, all right? And when you look at the root word of covenant, it's coven. And the original coven was a trinity of witches. It's very deep stuff. It's simply telling you the trinity or the tree, the primordial feminine energy of three, because the three is the tree or the trinity, the branches, the trunk, and the roots. She is what unifies all of her children. The man only understand linear energy. So what are we talking about here? This is non-circular energy. And all way it can balance itself is by attaching itself to her. So man is the original parasite. We're like anglerfish. If you research the anglerfish, the male is a lot smaller than a woman. He attaches himself to her for his very existence. He don't need much energy where they live at in the darkness. He looks like a little bump on her body, but that's actually the male species. And he attaches to her And since he don't require that much energy, she don't mind him parasiting off of her because she actually have an overabundance and need him to balance some of it out. And the benefit is whenever she release eggs, he fertilize them. So it's a yin and yang relationship. She's the one who gets the man to create her world and manifest it, her thoughts, because she's the pure thought. She's the architect. He's the builder. This is the mason or the bricklayer. It's the true role of the man. We're the builders. She's the architect. She's the designer. We are the manifestors. Today she's been put to work. She's the builder. And you have men architects called masons who've reversed the roles. She's the lawmaker, which is Ma'at. And man is the law enforcer, which is the police or the polarity of her. He's the policy enforcer. He's a visual contract of the universal unseen law. So this great architect is the primordial source and also should be the centering of yourself, the greater you, your greater version. You tapping into your heart, which will allow you to access all of your chakras in unison. And when you do so, that's when the fruits of your thought processes will manifest themselves in your day-to-day reality, because that person that's rich in spirituality and wisdom is also rich in a physical state. And this is the very simple secret they're using as a whole against the masses. But you can free yourself individually with this by going into yourself and knowing that every human is an artist. There's something unique about you. You are your universe and unique. Each fingerprint is a personal expression of the universal source. There's something you can do that can draw a crowd to you. You are the center of your own reality. Each of us has something to offer to the next. And this is how we build an economy based on what's really valuable, what really gives us power, which is the knowledge, the gnosis, the G-spot, the centering, the grounding of you and me, and connecting us back with Mother Nature. It is also a Rosicrucian concept of God as expressed by Max Heindel. The concept of the demiurge is a grand architect, or a grand architect also occurs in Gnosticism and other religious and philosophical systems, as we've been mentioning all throughout the video. Now, I will be doing Rosicrucian symbolism. I'm going to be doing each religion's symbolism, each secret society's symbolism, showing you the sacred geometry. There is no true name of the Most High. Humans have named the Most High many, many names throughout the history of humanity, which seems to have no beginning and no ending, if you ask me. So what is the name of the Most High? It's a rhythm. This name and this rhythm, it manifests itself in so many ways, representing that primordial source. How do we make it better? By balance, proper understanding, proper perception of the creation, which will give us the proper relationship with the Creator, which is a symbiotic relationship, as I explained earlier. The G in the center of this Masonic cosmos can mean girl. The girl is at the center of it all. Just like the girl is at the center of the beehive, the queen bee, that queen holds the mystery of it all within her. She holds the secrets of it all, the bee's origin, within her. She also holds the next line of queens within her. This is very deep matriarchal science, explaining why the beehive is revered, not only in masonry, but in early Kemet, and why the beehive and the golden rule is both synonymous with the layout of the cosmos, as well as how we behave with the queen bee being Mother Nature. You see, she feeds us all and we feed her back. Our connection with the plants and the trees is a symbiotic relationship connecting us with Mother Nature. The meat-based diets that govern the modern societies of today are a direct result of the patriarchal heliocentrism that removed us from the golden age. And that's where I will be getting us back to the gold. And the gold is not at the end of the rainbow, brothers and sisters. The gold is at the center, where you see the G. That G remains gold, and it shines like gold at the center. She's the honey. Again, when I say reveal, all right, the veil is worn by the woman in marriage because she holds the mystery just like the queen bee. This revealing that we see during the eclipse of this darkness is the same revealing of the bride during marriage. And marriage is a form of eclipse. There's new energy after the eclipse, just like there's new life after the marriage. So when you look at the climax of an eclipse, you're literally looking at the sun and moon engulfed within the black hole sun, physically one. This is not an alignment, it's a merge. It's a merging, a marriage. This helps us understand the nature of the luminaries and the translucency of these bodies. They're not physical, they are light beings. Eclipse reveals the source of them all, which is darkness. With that being said, let's talk more about the great architect of the universe. If this knowledge were to be widespread, it would be so powerful as a unifying agent upon the earth. The water that flows through the rivers of the earth flows through each and every last human body and makes its way through each of us. Every last thought of the next person to the right or left of you will become the thought of yours at some point, if it not already was. There's a collective consciousness. Energy can only redefine itself, and that's the newness of it all. That's where you get the new moon. That's where every couple of years a human should be maturing and becoming a new person for the good. The whole dialogue they give us about, man, I'm real, I never change. Change is the only thing that stays the same. When you look up at the stars, they're constantly changing every millisecond, a constant being of change. And that's what makes it consistent. The star has a set shade of colors that it assumes, and the shapes are abstract like driplets of water. So the whole thing where they tell you you're never looking at the same light, lights is always new light, you're getting the old light from the star, all of that crap, is basically what I'm telling you now. These things never are the same as the previous shape and color they assume. They always on an ever endless change of new energy and been doing it since the beginning of time. That is awesome. That's one of the mysteries of the stars. So that interaction between the stars and the atmosphere is constantly filtering this ether with new energy. And when you pair it all up with the stars and the fit stars and wandering stars, you got a cosmic cocktail and a celestial hypnotic effect above you that's moving in a carousel type motion. And this is the type of hypnosis that you want to be under. The music of the Most High, not the hypnosis of the media programming and the early solar system that they gave us when we was little. So everything they do, as the lie gets more and more exposed, they got to recreate the matrix closer and closer to the real reality that they based the lie off of. Remember, every lie is based on the truth. The lies have to constantly recreate themselves, whereas the truth will always be the same. They will reach a point where the lies can no longer recreate themselves because they will be so similar to the truth that it won't even matter. The control system is temporary because the word finite exists within infinity. So, though they can control the consciousness, their attempts to hijack the collective subconscious is a challenge to them. You got to think about it. With all of the investments and resources they've invested into this matrix, there's still a huge flat earth awakening. You travel within by asking all of the questions about the cosmos that's out there. That's part of being a Mason or a traveling man, not just moving physically, but exploring all the depths of human consciousness. That's the most crucial part of being a Mason. That's the knowledge itself. The grid exists below the dome. The dome is the hidden part that even sends you on a physical quest across the grid. You won't even think to say what's going on at the North Pole if the early humans never took the physical quest by first taking the spiritual quest and asking the questions that led them to make boats to even figure out what this place was. Spirit speaks to mind, and then mind speaks to brain. Brain is the physical representation of invisible mind. The human body itself is a physical representation of the invisible subconscious behind the whole intelligence within the human body that even the human itself not hip to. Again, you go to school to learn about the body, but the body knows everything about itself. Previously, we talked about the great architect of the universe. We talked about how it's the cosmic mother, the unifying ideology that would bring every human on this planet to a common ground, which is that checkerboard that the Masons stand on. They have a common ground despite their many religious backgrounds. This common ground has more validity than each of their personal beliefs, which is why, like I told you, think about it. Your founding fathers, for example, George Washington was a Freemason. And when he died, on his burial tombstone was the Brotherhood, was reverence of Freemasonry, not the USA. When they say we the people, it's the secret society and its members, not the ones who they're hiding the secret from. You're the sheeple, not the people. George Washington was a Mason, and Masonry comes before their service to the people. In fact, their very kingdom of brotherhood is built off the ignorance and backs of the people, playing the role of the peasant and forfeiting their divine sovereignty that nature gives them because of willful ignorance and programming. Now, this is a new day where the matrix is beginning to shatter right in front of their faces. So now what we're going to do is just pick up right here on the list and see what we can reveal from the bull crap they're telling us, because you know you're not going to get it all with them. So we're going to move on, and the first thing we have here is Christianity, which is actually awesome because this great architect, which is the deity, unifying deity of Freemasonry, was also the unifying deity of early Christianity before all of the thousands of dominations. Everything has been divided and conquered today. That G at the center of the Masonic cosmos is synonymous with this great architect of the universe, also synonymous with the deity at the top left in the Christian art. She is the 13th disciple, not Jesus. You can see the Council of 12 around her. Sits on one side, sits on the other. She is the 7th, lucky 7, because when you count from the left to right, she's the 7th. When you count from the right to left, from the disciples lean to her, she's the 7th. That would have been Jesus. 7 is S, even, meaning split even. She represents the tree of life, which splits the earth. It sits on one side, sits on the other. The 12 being the zodiac, that 13th constellation being the great mother, what they all revolve around, that hidden one. The 13 is the hidden one. Also synonymous with 7. 13 and 7 are related for many reasons, because the 13 is lucky, being the foundations. I went over that previously, but the 7 being the numbers of the 7 wandering stars, the 7 chakras, 7 days of the week. 7 meaning severed, but not in a divisive way, a type of unifying split like an eclipse where there's a marriage. So 7 meaning severed to show the unification of the whole. 7 meaning the number of candlesticks in a Jewish menorah, and that center stick would be Polaris, and that would be 3 on one side, meaning sun, moon, and black hole sun. 3 on the other side, sun, moon, black hole, sun, because there's a set of each. 7 is split even, or C even became 7. Severed evenly, separated evenly. sort of like a pizza where each slice is being pulled from the center. And if you don't cut it all the way to the center, you can't pull the slice. Just like each of us is a slice, an individual eye that's from the big eye, the primordial source, and each of us humans is a slice pulling its energy from the center, being the North Pole. And even before you came here, from the center, the umbilical cord hooked to your mother. Where that G is by the arch would be the spiral in the center of the belly, or the belly button, the great seal. There was a covenant between the baby and the mama, and this what allowed this bond, and you were able to be fed. Now, that G would be the equivalent of all those rays coming out of it, making a 360. Is no different than, think of that G, like I said, being Geb, but in the modern world, it would be the Earth globe. And instead of a bunch of rays around it, like in the Masonic cosmos, it would be all of the religions that they rule under. These is what build the fence around the globe, and the globe is just a mental concept that don't literally exist, but an agreed upon reality. And what seals it all together is all of the belief systems that support it as well. So when you see the globe with all of the religions around it, you're looking at the Masonic square and compass with all of the illumination coming from the G. Now, they know the secrets of this sacred geometry, but when they give it to you, again, it's the globe with all of the religions representing divide and conquer and a global deception. The globe balled up the grid that you see in this Masonic collage, and that grid is what keeps us all grounded. When you ball it up, you have no foundation. People think they wobbling around a void of darkness. What kind of humans would you create in a society that believes that? Well, you see it based upon our disconnection from the creation. We think the creator is as evil as we are and is as clumsy and as chaotic as we are. Therefore, chaos is perceived normal to us when we compare it to the source of all, because they've reinterpreted this reality by defining it for you via their fake sciences and religions that they call science, but it's really a religion giving you the creation story of humanity in a way that disconnects you from the story, because you're a direct representative of the primordial source. So they are hiding the great architect, the unifying information that will bring the masses together and end their control program of divide and conquer. So what unifies them can unify us. They understand this divine feminine connection in the brotherhood of Freemasonry. So we got to start tapping into those secrets, because what we don't know is hurting us. And one of the foolish things that was ever said was, what you don't know won't hurt you. What you don't know will kill you. You got to start changing what you say and think about it with the third eye. So this great architect in early Christianity was known as the Queen of Heaven. And as we move on, we'll get some more revelations of this Queen of Heaven and show you exactly who she is and what she looked like in some more artwork, as opposed to the one you see here in the top left. Yes, that's the Queen of Heaven, or the center of the Vesica Pisces. The womb, meaning left thigh, right thigh. In the middle is the womb or the vortex. This womb is always at the center of any cosmos, being a woman, being even at the earth. And in this art, you see at the center of most of this art, the center being the direct center of the dome, emanating to the top being the dove above her head, because the center is related to up. North is the center. The compasses point us to the center, and when we get to the center point us upward to the source. It's literally that simple. This cosmology is very simple. Her hands forms the yoni. The way we bring our hands together equals 10, 5 plus 5, and we make a tent-like shape with the hands. It also looked like your house, which is a tent or a capital A. as above, so below. Everything we do has this sacred geometry. So when you make the prayer hands, your hands assume the form of a house or a capital A with a yoni at the center, because in the middle of the house is the life. Just like the life exists upon Geb, enclosed within Nut. We're protected by the goddess above, and we're founded by the grid or the Geb below you, that horizontal Horus energy, linear energy. This is very deep stuff, because the connection that the earth plane have with the mother is that center hole. From the center, we travel upward and downwards. When you look at ancient cosmology, we are enclosed and protected. So we are capped in by the covenant. And a rainbow is a reminder of that. And that arch or that rainbow is a representation of the sky goddess Nut, because all of the colors of that rainbow equal out to be darkness or night, which is Nut. Basically going over a lot of things I went over previously before I move us forward. So now that we know that this all represent the divine feminine, or the great architect, or the great mother, or the queen of heaven in Christianity, let's deal with this queen of heaven. The concept of God as the great architect of the universe has been used many times within Christianity. An illustration of God as the architect of the universe can be found in the Bible from the Middle Ages, and a comparison of God to an architect has been used by Christian apologists and teachers. St. Thomas Aquinas said in the Summa, God, who is the first principle of all things, may be compared to things created as the architect is to things designed. So in other words, another way of St. Thomas saying that God was the first principle of all things, or the primordial source, compared to things created as the architect is to things designed. Commentators have pointed out that the assertion that the grand architect of the universe is the Christian God is not evident on the basis of natural theology alone, but requires an additional leap of faith based on a revelation of the Bible. We all know this is the misunderstanding of these ancient concepts when it get into the hand of these patriarchal Christian theologians. But anyway, as we read on, John Calvin in his Institutes of the Christian Religion, 1536, repeatedly calls the Christian God the architect of the universe, also referring to his works as the architecture of the universe. The grand architect, as we see here in Middle Age Christendom, you can see here during the Middle Ages of Christianity, they had a universal name for the creator that tied the creator into the cosmos. For example, the ark is above our head. We see it physically with the rainbow. There's proof of it. And when you have a name of the creator, for example, the great architect of the universe, it links the creator with a name and understanding that of something that we have in a revered section of that which it created. So whatever sacred part of this creation that the ancients think is sacred, which is normally the zenith, the peak of the arch dome, meaning if you walk in a dome temple, you would see the phases of the moon as you enter the temple and look above you at that all-seeing eye. You won't be able to see that circle as a 360-degree circle until you get directly underneath it. Until then, it will look like a yoni or a slit eye, or the phases of the moon going from quarter to, crescent and all of that, into full moon when you get directly underneath. These phases are all around us. The moon phases tells this story. And I brought this up because this phase of Christianity where they were referring to God as the great architect is a time where it wasn't as watered down as it is today, but it still was watered down, because even before this time you had the great mother, which is that great architect. So This was early attempts of the Christian patriarchs to get rid of the identity of the Most High being a divine mother. Even in early Christianity, like I said, a queen of heaven predates Mary and Jesus. Mary is nothing but another reincarnation of the queen of heaven, or the darkness giving birth to the light, Mary giving birth to Jesus, or the Immaculate Conception, where they said a big bang, from nothing you get something. But they don't understand that darkness ain't nothing. That darkness is everything there is. It's not nothing, it's new things. And new things always come from that darkness. And so that zero doesn't mean nothing. All numbers are born from zero. It's the highest number in the numerical system. If you can write infinity down, then just draw a circle that represents infinity. That's the egg of the woman. That's the nut energy. This queen of heaven in early Christianity is equivalent to the Venus figurines and all of the mother goddesses around the world on other continents. Again, everyone had a great mother at the center of their cosmology, and often in ancient world, cosmology was equivalent to religion. Religion is just synthetic cosmology, starting you off with a false big bang, kicking you out of the garden of balance so it can rule you in this mental hell construct that we're under today. This mental hellish construct that they design. Because nature is balanced, but the imbalance is only in the mind based upon programming that they got out there. The Queen of Heaven, let's take a look at some pictures at this time. All right, this is what's known as the Christian Queen of Heaven. These are interesting depictions because it shows you the triangle, which is actually Ma'at. Whenever you see the triangle, you're dealing with Ma'at. So I'm going to dig deeper on this Queen of Heaven concept, but this is actually going to be a whole nother video within itself, because this is where we're going to crank up and get real deep and reveal the early mother of Christianity. She is the Vesica Pisces. She's the pie. You can see here the goddess, the Queen of Heaven, inside of the moon crest, showing you the energy which causes the moon phases. You can see behind her head is an eclipse of the sun, and you see the black hole sun, black hole moon, which represents the great mother in this early Christian art. This later became the sun when the sun worshippers and patriarchs fully took over. But you can see in this early Christian art with the Queen of Heaven, she's has the black hole sun, which is the primordial source, the energy that eclipsed the sun and moon behind her head. And of course, her herself is eclipsing the moon. This is where you get the concept of the witch that flies across the moon on her broom and eclipses the moon. It's because that dark energy is what creates the moon phases, but also what causes the eclipses of both sun and moon. And the mysteries of this transitioning energy is hidden within the moon phases. So this is the mysteries of the moon that was taken away to rule you with this world of sun worship today. But you can see here that the black hole sun was behind the Queen of Heaven in this art. And when you look at the sacred geometry of her being inside of the crescent moon here, if you do your sacred geometry and outline this, you see it makes a pyramid, a triangle. But not only that, it makes an anchor, and the whole city of Angkor Wat is built off this same concept we see in early Christianity here with the Queen of Heaven. She is the serpent goddess. Remember that when you say the anchor, you're dealing with a very holy symbol, because the anchor is where we even get the Ankh from. The Ankh resides at the top of the anchor, people. Remember that the Ankh is the anchor. They're both revered symbols. because that anchor is the saint's symbol, represent balance and holy reverence. And that anchor is nothing but, again, what keeps us grounded. Mama, the law of attraction, her vortex. Here she is in the shape of an anchor with her hands crossed. All right. That's very symbolic, people. That crossing represents the intersection. You can see the cross beneath her hands that's crossed. That represents the X, which is a cross, an intersection, marking the spot in the center of her body, being the heart. This art tells a big story to those who look at every aspect of it. She's the anchor. This is very, very, very important, because when I get into this anchor concept, it ties into the shape of a lot of deities. The witch having the broom, eclipsing the moon on her broom, is the black hole sun causing the moon phases, told in a different mythology. She's the one that balances the scales, sun and moon. Therefore, her darkness eventually eclipses them both. She's the sandwich. What do you mean, Brother Sanchez? Well, the sand tells a story. The sand is where the sea meets the land. And when you combine sea with land, something new happens called sand. Sea plus land equals sand. This is another place where we see two different dimensions of our cosmos, being the ocean meeting with the land, creating a marriage called the sand. And buddy, do we love to go to the beach. There's an attraction in this area, because where the water marries the land, we get something called sand or a beach. And boy, the beach is always crowded based on the energy. You can hear the sounds of the waves. Remember that the serpent is the wave, and that wave is at the center of the yin yang. Just like you can see the waves ending and revealing the end of their length, just like the end of a blanket on the bed. That ocean stretches on for so many miles, but when you're on that beach, you're at the end of that blanket where those waves stop and reveal sand and reveal an outline of a continent, bringing you in another world, tying in everything in our cosmos, the oceans to the lands. But just remember that where sea meets land, we get sand. And wherever a polarity marries each other, there's an attraction there. Just like we're attracted to the beach, we're attracted to the stars. We want to build craft to go and explore that, because that's where the heavens meets the earth. And we go up there because we're attracted to the arch. We're attracted to that vortex. We're even attracted outward to the ice ring, where our world ends and new worlds begin, because beyond the ring is a whole nother sun and moon system going around another ring. When you understand the makeout of the cosmos being similar to Atlantis, all right, a continuum or the target logo, it don't end at the ring. We're attracted to areas beyond that ring. And that attraction upward and outward is the same attraction we have to explore inward when we ask questions about our soul. So this is when you see the Christians do the cross across their shoulders and from the forehead to the heart, showing you all of these areas of exploration that make up our reality as we journey outward, inward, up, down, and all of the dimensions of the cosmos. And this is also parallels the expeditions of the human, which is a microcosmos. Same questions we ask about the night sky, we ask about the soul within the human. But the answer is within us subconsciously. This is the string theory. And the great mother is the one that keeps the whole fabric woven together. She's the master weaver, the one who knows how to knit, or the one who knows how to knight. Again, the shield and sword is the nut and gale. The shield is to absorb impact and protect you, just like nut, the absorption energy of the darkness, the night, the womb. and it protects the baby inside of another arch being the bulge of the belly, just the way she's protecting Geb in this cosmology. The sword being the destroyer, the penetrator, the penis that breaks through the darkness. See, those light beings in the sky are messengers from the darkness. So you will notice that the symbol associated with the god Mercury is identical to the Queen of Heaven. But that's a whole nother session of this video where I'm going to get into anchor symbolism and how it relates to the anchor and the Queen of Heaven who sits inside of the crescent moon. I'm going to go deep into this. I just wanted to show you the Queen of Heaven since we're talking about it and its relation to the great architect or the great mother. And we want to deal with some of the art associated with this so you can see she's just a personification of a concept, a feminine concept, a feminine energy. And when we deal with art, we deal with sacred geometry, lines and angles. Angels of light are angles of light. And you can see that they form a triangle, okay, which is a trinity angel, because angles of light are angels of light. In other words, this would today be called an angel of light. No one speaks about the Queen of Heaven or the great architect. Most people, if you showing them this, they'll say, well, it's Mary or Queen of Heaven. I doubt if they say Queen of Heaven, they'll say Mary. Most Christians will say, oh, that's an angel of light. And it's really an angle of light showing you basically corpuscular rays. The triangulation of light. The arc design of the dome is the primordial echo. Everything will be enclosed in a dome, just like your body is. The crown of your body is your head, which is your dome, and it's sealed by that swirl at the base of your skull where all your hair spirals from. That's the great seal. See, the cosmic mother, she became the dragon, and the reason that the Queen of Heaven drags the dress and the reason that the bride drags the dress, she's the dragon, because in the ancient world, she was a serpent goddess with a dragon tail. She became the devil, but she was the diva. The trident is the balance and scales. Here you can see why the women still drag their tails today, or their tail feather. It's a tail or a trail, just like the moon has a trail of stars that she escorts, just like the tail of the dress. And I went over the marriage ceremony, so you can go back and check that out and see why the women wear the dress, but the dress is the tail of the dragon. This is all symbolic. This Queen of Heaven is the spade. Remember, spades is the highest card in the deck. Spades is the suit the Joker belongs to, and the Joker is the Queen Bee. If you ever look at a deck of cards, the Joker is the Queen Bee, the one that asks the questions, the Riddler. That in Batman is the enemy because they don't want you asking questions. The jokester is the Riddler, the one with the riddles. Riddle me this, riddle me that. The one that begins the quest. And now they got all of that linked to clowns and jokers and keep you from questioning. Remember that the penguin was also a bad guy, and the penguins we see in Antarctica, all of these symbols of the bad guy, they want the bad guy things they don't want you exploring, like the areas where the penguin reside, and the Riddler being the question marks because they don't want you questioning. They practicing this psychological war, people. You literally act this stuff out and you don't question based upon all this programming. Batman is really the bee goddess. The veil and the tail. Remember, the cape on the hero is nothing but this tail that this Queen of Heaven have. That's why all of the superheroes wear the cape. Okay, that's the devil's tail. The devil is really the hero. When you flip the word devil around, you get live. Evil is live. Evil is veil, because the one with the tail or the dress wears the veil also in marriage. You can see this desecration even in the Middle East with the women wearing the face veils and the long dress for the tails. You look up the deity called Ketu, and you can see the one without the head, but the body represented as the tail. So the veil is the lack of the head, and the tail is what you see here with the Queen of Heaven. Everything starts off this way, even the sperm with the tail. This is the Nagini. Remember, the genie is the Nagini is Nagini. When you look up Nagini and you see the serpent body on the human, is representing this feminine energy with the queen here. That serpent half would just be her dress. And remember that the Joker is the Queen of Heaven. The Joker is really the hooker. The J meaning the J, when you say jalapeno, the J is the H. So the Joker is the hoker or the hooker. The word hooker is linked to the divine feminine. She's the one that hooks the soul with the law of attraction and keep you caught up in her vortex, experiencing this creation through mothers. So the hooker or the Joker is the hooker. That's the highest card in the deck because nothing can escape her vortex. The Joker is represented by the bee, the queen bee. This is deep stuff, and you're looking at her right here as the Queen of Heaven. The suit that the Joker belongs to in the deck is the spade. And you can see that she also resembles the card suit called a spade in this art. Most people so lost today, they said that the spirit of the Queen of Heaven is demonic. But it's only demonic because the programmers want it to be demonic to you. Remember that her balances and scales became two horns that was given to the devil. For example, when you see this, the Egyptian Queen of Heaven in the form of Hathor, and you can see here with the balances and scales on her head, all right, that circle would be where Ma'at or the feather would be, representing the egg of life, the circle of 360 continuum of life. And you get that based on a polarity, meaning the archdome above marrying the underworld bowl below gives you 360. 180 plus 180. Just like 9 plus 9 is 18. The horns of this goddess became the devil. You can see she has no body. Her body is the earth and all of these flowers. Just like the body of the moon is the stars, her children. We are her children that she escorts through this reality. He carries a tail or a lineage, the branches of the tree. The length of the dress symbolizes the lineage, which begins through the matriarch and is expanded through her. So the longer the wedding dress, the more royal and potent and fertile it's said the bride is. Longer wedding dresses cost most money. I want to stick to the great architect and get some more of this first article so we can see how this Queen of Heaven relates to Freemasonry here. And then in the future, I'll do a individual video just strictly on the Queen of Heaven here. So I just wanted to skip there to give you a mental concept what we're dealing with. We'll go deeper on in the future. So now back to this. So one thing I wanted to point out before we move into Hermeticism is that when we talk about the threefold great architect of the universe, it's always going to be three, dealing with the Trinity or the goddess portal, which is equivalent to the moon phases, the Vesica Pisces or triple goddesses, which are the three witches in folklore, all going back to the Trinity of the X chromosome being that dual vortex that they speak of on the planet of Venus, which is a CGI concept of an ancient concept, V plus V equals X. So by them coming together, they create 4 different pie slices where actually apart they're just 2. So the bond is unification, expansion. When you split a cell, it multiplies. Think about that X chromosome. You're also looking at the top of the pyramid when you see an X. You're looking at the pyramid from above the peak, you're now looking down at the pyramid from the artist's view, the creator's view, because from that view, you're at the seat of your soul, the third eye. Trinity is important because it's the three that allows you to create the triangle. But just to move on with Hermeticism, the great architect may also be a metaphor alluding to the Godhead potentiality of every individual. That invisible power, keep in mind now, that invisible power, which all know does exist, but understood by many different names, such as God, Spirit, Supreme Being, Intelligence, Mind, Energy, Nature, and so forth. So this is a great example of everything I've been trying to tell you. Let's keep reading. In the Hermetic tradition, each and every person has the potential to become God. That's great. In today's tradition, you don't. So this idea or concept of God is perceived as internal rather than external. Like we do today, we seek gods outside of ourselves, and you're actually told that to seek God inside of yourself is blasphemy. How can that which was created by the Creator be separate from the source which created it? And when trying to identify itself with that divine part of itself, you're told not to do so. So this is the disconnection of the human from that potentiality that's spoken of in Hermeticism. You forfeit all of that potential when you accept another God given to you by man, because like we're reading here in a Hermetic tradition, each and every person has the potential to become God. Remember that the root word of potential is potent, and a key word in potent is tent. Tent is the position that you assume when you meditate. Meditation is called Zen, and Zen is 10. So you're not tapping into your potentiality or your Zen energy or the meditation, meditation. You're not dealing with yourself, because most people in the world looking outside of themselves, like it says here, this idea or concept of God is perceived as internal rather than external. The person that gets you to focus on energy outside of you is giving you a drug, and you're going to always be dependent on them for that energy. But once you learn how to access the God energy within you, the same energy that's telling your body to heal itself when you get cut without you having to talk to it, the same energy that's making your heart beat without you having to do nothing, that's the divine part of yourself that know all. Again, you go to school to learn about the body, but the body know everything about itself. When you access that all-knowing energy that's already in you and your Akashic records, your DNA, now you're living. But that's the part that's been cursed they don't want you dealing with. So they say you born into sin when you really born into center. When you was born onto the earth plane, you was born into the center of the cosmos. And now everything you do on this plane will be dictated by your connection with the center of yourself. And you tapping into your heart to unlock the secrets and mysteries of why you was born. And just like that seed know what it's supposed to do when it go in the ground, but the human don't know what it's supposed to do when its feet hit the ground. We ask dumb questions because we indoctrinated. We don't ask the right questions that'll get us on a quest back going, researching inside of our heart, unlocking the compassion, allowing the God consciousness to balance the scales and perceive reality the way it's supposed to be perceived, to bring forth fruit in your life. You can't do that looking outside of yourself. It goes on to say the great architect is also an allusion to the observer created universe. We create our own reality, hence we are the architect. Another way would be to say that the mind is the builder. How many times do I teach this to y'all in so many ways? It's not what you see with your eyes, it's what the mind interprets what you see with your eyes. If you're a negative person, you're going to live a negative life. If you're a positive person, you're going to be laughing in a negative situation, making a negative person even more angrier. You ever been around somebody that's more positive than you? And when something happen to get you stressed, they make a joke out of it. They make light out of it. And they tell you to lighten up. And when they try to get you to lighten up, it make you angrier. That's because you out of whack. You ain't living. You got the weight of the world and society wearing you down with indoctrination. So to be neutral, you shape your reality based on what you think about it, what you believe about it. What's on the inside of your heart will determine what's on the outside of your life. Where you find yourself at any given time you open your eyes is a result of what's inside of your heart and mind. The hidden part of you determines where you go on this grid. So you really need to get to know yourself so you can see where you're going. Now let's get into Rosicrucianism. In Heidel's exposition, the great architect of the universe is the supreme being who proceeds from the absolute at the dawn of manifestation. It's something I definitely will want to get into because, again, you got your all-seeing eye above the arching plane, dealing with the ancient cosmology. So what I'll do is I'll save this and I'll turn this into a future lecture, which I'll add much more to it and make it thorough. And we'll go into the Rosicrucians and their symbolism and everything. But we'll move on to Gnosticism here and save that one for the future, just so we stay on track. So Gnosticism, the concept of the great architect of the universe occurs in Gnosticism. The demiurge is the great architect of the universe. I will be looking more into the demiurge, but basically to sum it up, it's the dual nature of the creator and the destroyer. The machines that come and tear the building down, as well as the ones that come in to build it up, are all the same. Some of the same tools that help tear it down will be some of the same tools that help build it up. And all of this destroying and rebuilding is called creation. So the ABCs of architecture or creation would be the acknowledgement, which is the architecture, the plan. All right. The B would be the biology or the body. And the C would be the creation, represented as the roof, capping the structure, sealing it in. And that's the covenant. And you know, that's the last part of creation. The seal or the ceiling. And then you go in your house and look up at the roof and you say that's the ceiling, because that's the great seal, the covenant of the mother, the arch of the covenant being knit and sealing all life inside. And the covenant is that you're protected, that the creation is created by a stable creator, and you can have trust. Remember, trust is a term we used in law dealing with finances, because a trust is more than like a monetary bond. You know, trust in bonds when you deal with finances, because there's a degree of trust that's needed when doing business to create a level of comfort that would maintain the relationship. And you got to know that the creator that created this earth created it stable so you can live upon it, trusting the architecture, that the design is stable, and quit living in fear that a meteor gonna crash and the creator is clumsy because the controllers lied to you and hid the perfection behind their CGI universe. You walk inside a Walmart and you don't have no fear at all in your mind that the building is gonna collapse upon you. Yet you walk outside of the store that man built into the creation that the creator built and be in panic about meteors and cataclysms. You have been bamboozled, humanity. And I'm just trying to get us back connected with the mother nature, and get us back under the covenant trusting that our feet on solid ground and we in a stable cosmos, and a stable creator is in control, balancing the scales from the center, and everything is under control. And the moment you stop tripping, all the budgets are in, because the controllers make millions of dollars a day based on your fear and your disconnection from the Most High, thinking the Most High is dumber than man. So you got to pay man to keep the Most High from causing cataclysms. This is blasphemy. The concept of the great architect of the universe occurs in Gnosticism. The demiurge is the great architect of the universe, the God of the Old Testament. Remember, that was the God that held the law. This God of the New Testament done away with the law and introduced this faith concept, which is the Aleister Crowley, do what thou wilt, do whatever you want to do, and this deity died for your sins. This whole concept goes against the laws of nature, which teaches karma. What goes around comes around. Remember that the boomerang shapes like a V. And when you throw it out, it come back to you. That V is the vortex. The boomerang is the dove. All right, the sacred bird that we always come back to. You can't get rid of it. When you throw it, it's going to come back. She always come back. You can't escape her. It's the revelation. When you outline it, that's what Nut is, the outline. The one who gives the revelation. The one who wears the veil, who you reveal. She reveals to you the secrets. When you outline a cross, again, you get the crest. The crest is also known as the kite. What creates the shape of the kite is the cross. So what you're looking at is a divine symbol, and it's able to make the kite sustain itself in flight consistently just by the aerodynamics, the shape. In that same shape of the cosmos, that yoni. Everything about this shape will produce something. Remember, the stiffness of the sticks and the bending ability of the fabric is the yin and yang. The shape of the cross being that intersection, this sacred geometry creates the yoni, and this thing can take flight. This God of the Old Testament had commandments. This God had a law, and this law predate the God of the Old Testament. This was the laws of Ma'at, which was put here to keep balance on the earth during the time when we started to get corrupted, because at first we didn't need the law written down. We had the law written in our hearts. We was able to listen to our consciousness and balance the scales on each shoulder, the angel on one shoulder, devil on the other one. And we always made the proper conscious decision and showed mercy and compassion in the early days when we was all accessing that heart chakra that's necessary to live on this earth plane or this heart plane. This is the heart chakra of the Most High, what we call the earth. This is the center. Everything in this realm have to live by the heart and weigh the reality with the heart through compassion. This is how the strong and the weak creates the yin and yang, and they both create something stronger than the whole thing. The strong needs the weak, and the weak needs the strong. It's a 50-50 thing. Neither one of them is better than the next. They need each other. Just like the all-knowing need the unknowing. Just like the creation needs the observer, you and me. We didn't need the written law. The law was written in our heart and our consciousness. Today is so corrupted, we don't even know what the law is. And most of the time we think we're doing good, we're really doing bad. The demiurge is the great architect of the universe, of the God of the Old Testament, in opposition to Christ and Sophia, messengers of Gnosis of the true God. For example, Gnostics such as the Nazarenes believe in Pyraraba is the source, origin, and container of all things, which is filled by the Manaraba, the great spirit from which emanates the first life. They're telling you the story of projection, how the creator projected itself all the way here to us having this conversation about itself when it already knows everything. But just the act of having this quest is the observer observing that which it created first person through each and individual. And each one of us interpret a different way, which gives a new understanding to this one source, and it's perfecting this thing as it experiences it. So it's a work in progress. And this literature explains all of that. The great spirit from which emanates the first life. The first life prays for companionship and progeny, whereupon the second life, the Ultra Mikayema, or world constituting aeon, the architect of the universe, comes into being. From this architect come a number of aeons who erect the universe under the foremanship of Manda, the high, or Gnosis Zoes, the personified knowledge of life, which is you and me. James Hopwood Jeans, in his book, The Mysterious Universe, also employs the concept of a great architect of the universe, saying at one point, lapsing back again into the crudely anthropomorphic language we have already used, we may say that we have already considered with disfavor the possibility of the universe having been planned by a biologist or an engineer. From the intrinsic evidence of his creation, the great architect of the universe now begins to appear as a pure mathematician. To that, Generajadasa adds his observation that the great architect is also a grand geometrician, or in some manner or the other, whether obvious or hidden, there seems to be a geometric basis to every object in the universe. So now you guys should understand why sacred geometry is directly linked to the language of the universe. Math is ma'at. All of these are spiritual tools dealing with balance. By the time you reach your middle ages of life, you should be reaching a neutral point in your wisdom. And by the time you are elder with the crown of gray hair, you should be a divine spiritual being, manipulating realities, preparing yourself for your transition. We balance it out and perfect it as a senior. All of these studies associated with math are tools that were used to reconnect us with the source. Now they are tools that are used to determine amounts that don't really exist inside of infinity. But these amounts is what create this world where, based upon these measurements, some people are peasants and some people are not. And it's the middle class that hold the whole fucked up system together, because the middle of everything is the support system. It's the cosmic mother. It's the heart, the core, the seed. This measuring system of measuring things in infinity and splitting them out among the masses to create classes. It creates a world where a certain group of men can be gods on earth. At one point, every human was a god upon the earth, or a woman was a goddess upon the earth. Now there's only a few gods, and the rest of us are slaves because we serve the gods that they created instead of the gods that once connected us all to the creator within and gave us the ability to shape our reality from the inside out. The people that control your mind control your reality and everything you consume. Look forward to lectures on Rosicrucianism, Gnosticism, the symbolism associated with all of these different schools of thought. So if you support what I do, there's many ways you can support it besides monetarily. Simply sharing my work. Hey, you tweet it out here and there, put it on your Facebook wall. Just wanted to let you guys know that. Big shout out, big hug to my Patreons out there and to all of my viewers and subscribers. Man, I love you, brothers and sisters. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, because man, they put years and years into creating the Matrix. And again, my work is the foundation of undoing the lie. So let me go ahead and let you guys go for the day. I hope you enjoyed it. New uploads every Thursday. Peace and much love.